About to get started. So my name is Gennaro. I'm the Chief Communications Officer for AECOM Technology Corporation. I've been given the privilege and the honor of introducing our keynote speaker this morning. So as I introduce him, I'd like to briefly acknowledge the critical business imperative of this event and others like it, whether it's for the business community, governments, as we were just talking about the break, academia and society at large. I'm fortunate to work for AECOM. We're the world's #1 ranked engineering design firm. So we have 45,000 employees that are architects, engineers, designers, planners. The largest bridge in the world, we've done that. One World Trade is us. The London Olympics with the master planner, Rio Olympics. Corporate social responsibility is at the center of everything that we do. It's a business imperative. It's not an option. Beyond that, as a growing volume of data, and I've got a lot of it that I can share with folks if they'd like to see it, reflects people around the world are increasingly making decisions based on their perceptions of an organization's corporate social responsibility. This applies to customers and clients, it applies to employees and students, it applies to shareholders and investors, and it applies to legislators and society at large. It's not an option anymore. We're seeing that more and more. In addition to my role, so you see up there, Chief Communications Officer for AECOM, I'm also Chairman of the Rutgers Institute, the organization that annually ranks the world's most ethical companies. I chair their Communications Advisory Board. I also sit on the advisory board for the Emory University Center for Ethics. So I have a good opportunity to interface with organizations that are really kind of leading the way when you talk about ethics, when you talk about corporate social responsibility, and then tying that back here today. It's really why it's my privilege to introduce Timothy McClimon, Vice President of Corporate Social Responsibility for American Express and President of the American Express Foundation. During my 25 years, I've been fortunate to work for some pretty cool companies, but the most coolest of all, present company, AECOM excluded, obviously, would be American Express in the late 90s. Long before it was a buzzword, and again, we were just talking about so much of this during the break. Long before it was something corporations were supposed to do, American Express was doing that through their values, through their ethics, through their integrity, through the foundation, and all the good that the foundation does and has been doing for years and years and years. So it is truly my pleasure. I'm just going to read a little bit about Tim's background. So in his role with American Express, he has the responsibility for American Express's corporate citizenship programs, including philanthropy, employee engagement opportunities and activities, and environmental programs. He's been with American Express for 7 years. Prior to American Express, he spent portions of his career as an attorney, so there was some dialogue about what's the role of attorneys. I think here we have a great example, probably some good questions for Tim. Working for organizations and being on different boards. He's a leader in this space. I think it's all of our privilege to be able to hear from him speak today. So with that, please join us.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul, and thank you to James and Alex and everyone else who's been responsible for organizing this terrific conference. It's really my pleasure to be here today. I have been asked to share a few thoughts with you about CSR today and emerging trends for tomorrow, and I'm going to do that in a few minutes, but I'm not very good at predicting the future. If I were, I'd be a much wealthier man. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So instead, I'd like to spend a few moments talking about where we've been. I know you've just heard this from Dr. Carroll, but I'm going to approach this from a practitioner's standpoint. So I'm the doer, he's the thinker. And while we definitely agree on a history of CSR, I just want to approach it from a slightly different standpoint because it will inform some of what I have to say a little later about CSR today and tomorrow. So as Paul mentioned, I'm responsible for our corporate social responsibility activities at American Express and also our foundation, so we do combine those activities with American Express, and I've been there for 7 years, but I've been practicing in this space for about 25 years, so I approach it from that point of view. And while my look at history might be a little different from Dr. Carroll's, it's not meant to be a substitute for that. It's not in any way meant to conflict with anything that's been said today. It's really meant to to be a complement to that. And I think you'll see how that plays out. So while I was preparing for this speech today, I was reminded of a presentation that I heard quite a few years ago at a Council on Foundations conference. And the presentation was done by Oz Nelson, who was then the CEO of UPS. And he made a statement in the course of his presentation that all giving, even corporate giving, should come from the heart. Now, a lot of people applauded in the audience, but several people groaned, actually groaned, when they heard that. And I remember very distinctly an individual standing up and saying, well, that's all well and good, but finding a corporation's heart is the real problem.